2 billion views generated across client accounts. Mugundhan stepped into the clipping space early and scaled operations at a level most never reach. From starting at the age of 13 with minimal experience to now and former leading operations inside ROI Media, he's managed client communication, clipper teams, and high volume content systems that drive distribution across every platform. Now, as the founder of ClipHub AI, he's building automated software to streamline and scale current existing clipping operations even further. Today's conversation will cover what actually works in clipping right now, how to build systems that produce consistent performance, and where this entire space is heading over the next 12 to 24 months. Mugundhan, welcome to today's show.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, that's pretty much right, and pretty excited for this podcast. I'm gonna try my best to give as much value as possible, so people can really use this uh, for their clipping or something else.
100%. And this today is going to be a great conversation. So,
Yep.
just to get started, Ugandan, what are you optimizing right now for, and what are you intentionally choosing not to optimize for?
Yeah, so right now I'm working on the ClipHub AI with my founders Amr and Roman, and we are basically building a system where we can automate the distribution process. So I first started it uh, as a clipping tool for clippers that we had. We realized that a lot of clippers were using like AI videos and submitting on our campaigns, and then they were pretty shit. People were using like Opus and
Yeah.
Wizard and stuff like that. And we did not allow it in the end. And we made it clear in the rules as well that we are not going to allow those types of content from those platforms. So then we decided to make our own. We started about exactly a year ago. It's like our anniversary soon. So yeah, we started it, and right now it's making very good styles that we would actually allow in those types of campaigns. And then now we have shifted our direction. So we are building basically an agency where we deliver with the systems that we build with ClipHub. So I'll run like phone forms basically. That's what I see uh, in a few months, running phone forms and distributing it with automated content to thousands of people. Yep.
Yeah, that's a great answer. So, for me, just to add on to your point when it comes to not using things like Opus Clip, last time
Yeah.
I checked, Opus Clip is like valued at $1 billion. So, people know that the service is pretty bad, not the best. However, they're still using it because there's a massive demand right now for clipping, whether, like you said, offering like an internal software, internal service, and using that for your clients, or there's the additional trend of you're an agency and then you build like an in-house content team for a billionaire or a massive company when it comes to social media. So 100% agree with your point when it comes to that. So when it comes to ClipHub AI, what are a few things that you're doing that makes your software stand out compared to Opus, WAP, content rewards, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, like as you said, they still use it, and I'm not saying it's shit. It's was really bad for our use case, for our types of creators that we work with. We generally work with people who are streamers, maybe people who are selling courses, entrepreneurs and stuff like that. And stuff that Opus and they have is like general captions, and we make custom ones for the people who work with and the clippers and stuff like that. So that's the thing that separates a lot. And the same with the clip selection as well. They
Mm-hmm.
don't have like we have an auto clipper and they also have an auto clipper. That's like more generalized, but we have customized it. And right now, for the clients that we'll actually work with, we'll feed with all of their content they have ever done. and all the transcript and everything, so the agent knows directly like how what works, and will feed like with the performances on all of that. So it will perfectly pick out the best clips to distribute to it. So that's what we're doing differently, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I am. So gotcha. That makes sense around that point. So when it comes to, you mentioned transitioning away from like a consumer software to more like an agency role, like what is your current way of getting customers, or what's your planned way of getting customers when it comes to getting new clients for your software?
Yeah, so right now the plan is with social media, because that's where our ideal customer profile is hanging out on. So we'll definitely do some, not ads, but we'll do some content around the product. So, they see it. We'll do some maybe funnel breakdowns, like how others do it. Since we have actually, worked with pretty big creators and people like Brett Scales, and Vincent Fisher, WAP YouTube channel themselves. So we can break down how we did it for them, and that we know what we're doing and how they made a lot of money from this. Right now, even Brez said it in a webinar or something like that, that his best investment was on clip pages, and that's where he got a lot of leads from. So that's a way we're going to plan on. And also, I was thinking as well to use the system that we're actually providing myself, and to prove that it works. So I'll start off doing content as well and show that it works and get them from there. So I think that's a great way as well to showcase the product.
Mm. And I know you mentioned Brez, and he said the reason why he was able to come up so fast is clipping. So I want to kind of flip that and transition to you on more of a personal level. So at the age of 15, you stepped into joining RI Media, and that typically is not normal for a young teenager like both of us. So what specifically made them trust you early on? Or like what did you do differently than everyone else trying to get into this clipping space or working for a clipping agency, etc.?
Yeah, great question. It's a pretty interesting story, actually. I'll give a quick backstory. I was like 15 years old at the time. It was exactly a year ago. It was January, I think. And that day, I decided I want to work overnight. So that was like the first time I decided I'm going to work. I'm going to work, stay up at night and do stuff to move the needle. And then while I was just looking around, I stumbled across a Discord server. It was Brez's clipping Discord server,
Hmm.
which Reza, who was a former owner of Aura Media, ran that. So and then I saw that in the community there were some flaws. Like there were some clippers mentioning the system is broken, the rules, permissions were not working and stuff like that. And then I DM'd Reza. I was like, yo, I can help you out with this. And he was like, yeah, I need some help, and then I'll just give you the roles, and then we can figure something out later on. And then he gave me the roles to access and fix those problems. I fixed it immediately that night. And then next day he saw it, and he was pretty glad. And he saw my dedication and that I can do it very fast. So like speed was very important to get trust with them. So from that, we just he just gave me more opportunity to work and manage the community itself.
Hmm.
So from that, I took on some more work by managing the community, building systems, just directing the clippers and stuff like that. So yeah, and then yeah, people just look for your dedication. So you gotta show them you can make them money,
Hmm.
and then the money will come to you automatically. You don't have to focus on the money itself, just provide the value and it will come as a reward.
Yeah, that's good. And to add on to your point too, especially when it comes to operations and how you want to be that entrepreneur with the A plus talent when it comes to, like you mentioned, you worked with him and then you automatically got it done compared to, yeah, I'll get it done later. Yeah, like a 5 minute task to do. So I know you gave like a very quick overview of what you did at RRI Media, I want to go a little bit more deeper when it comes to scaling Clippers, managing Clippers, because right now I'm managing and helping manage around like 20, 25 Clippers or just editors at the moment. So when it comes to me, this is super valuable. So can you walk me through more tactical of when it comes to like how did you structure Clippers, like the feedback that you gave them, and then helping them get better on a, like a weekly basis?
Yeah. We usually see the Clippers submissions from, for example, WAP counterwords. So we can see what they're actually producing. So from that, when we are checking out the submissions and stuff day to day, we'll see, what they're doing, and we'll give them feedback immediately if we see there is something wrong. We'll DM them and be like, hey, you need to fix this. Just fix the captions a bit, use these settings, do this, it will improve the video, and then
Mm-hmm.
try it out on the next video. So every time we did that, they improved constantly. And then in the end, they were having no problems at all. And now they are one of the best clippers, now making thousands of dollars for
Mm-hmm.
a lot of different campaigns. So yeah, that's
Cool.
basically what we'll help with. And then also we'll have like daily calls maybe, or like weekly calls in the
Mm-hmm.
community, where we go through all of the clippers, and yeah, just give them feedback. And the communication with the clippers is very important. That's a thing I see a lot. If you don't communicate with them, then it won't grow basically.
Mm-hmm.
They won't understand what they have to do, and they won't do what you want them to do and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, people is everything when it comes to just business or just life in general. I was speaking to Darren Lee yesterday on yesterday's podcast when it came to business and how business is run and then how culture is run and how it should be run. So there's marketing, there's sales, there's fulfillment, and then there's people overarching the entire thing.
Hmm.
So when it comes to those weekly calls that you have, did you include like shout outs, compensation, like specific like attaboys to specific clippers who are absolutely crushing it compared to the other ones?
Yeah, of course. We in the weekly calls, we usually said before, if you guys join the calls, we'll give like $10 to some random clipper who stays until the end. So that made,
Mm,
of course, a lot of people join just because
yeah.
of that. And then in that process, they learn as well. So that helps you and the client.
Mm,
So that's a way of getting them. And then of course we did compensate a lot of clippers if they are doing well, or we'll do like some random challenges, like say, the best edit today will get
50
$50.
bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
So we did that time to time, and that worked out pretty well. And yeah, it just was, they were more connected to the community and more, active. So that
Hmm.
made it help a lot.
Yeah. And just a quick follow up on that. When it comes to those top performing clippers, what I found what's working is having them, if of course their skill set is there, to move to like a managerial role or like a head of the Clipper department, you could say, and they give more, they coach the other Clippers as well when it comes to that. Did you guys implement that or as well, or just something similar, or maybe not?
I mean, not really, but in the beginning, we did have a couple of, employees, and new team members join the team, and they came from the community.
Mm,
So we saw them doing well, so we just got them on. But we did sometimes we like asked some of the great clippers to make some tutorials and guides for the community itself. I've had times where the top clippers, when we ask that, they want to gatekeep it because they do something very different, and if
mm,
the others as well do it, then it will get oversaturated. So that was a problem.
yeah. There's always the constant balance between people who love to be 100% transparent about their skill sets, how they do it, what they work on, and then there's the completely other people of like, I just want to keep it secret. locked doors the entire time. I'm not giving you any of my knowledge, any of my sauce, etc. So I know we covered a lot about fulfillment side. I want to cover sales and onboarding for a real quick second. So let's say if a new client comes into our media once you're working there, what's the first sign that you tended to look for when on your role that tells you what exactly kind of will move the needle for that client?
Yeah, when we get a new creator on board, then I would immediately check what type of content they have. And also, another thing which is important is what they want. If they want the
Mm,
sales or they want to get famous.
yeah.
So based on that, I will look for what type of, you know, content we should push for. Like maybe more like sit down videos where they explain more about what they do, or more like of lifestyle if they want to get more views. And yeah, just look for what type of personality they have. So then, I can pick out the clips very simply. And I mean, that's pretty much what I look for. And then if I do see any clip that will have a lot of good potential, then I will let the community know, or will give a drive folder with a lot of clips already clipped out, where they just have to edit it and post it, and that's
Yeah.
everything they need to do. So that we make the job very easy for them, also while not taking away their creativity. So
Mhm.
that's what I see work.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. To not necessarily take a step back, but make this a little bit more tactical for the people listening, what would be like the first question that you would ask the client once they got started working with you?
And this was something, the people who were, taking in the clients and stuff, Adrian and Reza,
Hmm.
they were doing it. But I have also taken on some clients myself. Recently, I took a Swedish client actually, and we grew their distribution. But there was something we didn't ask, which we had problems later on, which was if they want to get famous or if they want to focus on getting sales. That
Mm.
was a very important question we should have asked. And it's they are completely two different, you know, things.
Two different, yep, two different pathways.
Exactly. So that decides what type of content to push for. So if we push for the content to make a lot of, make them famous, then they might not get any sales at all, because they just think he's a cool guy. He doesn't know anything, or he's
Yeah.
just, funny or something like that.
Hmm.
That's pretty important question as well.
Yeah, that's good. For me, it's the get to add on to your point when it comes to like the second half of your answer. People have to know, like, trust you, and respect you.
Mm.
And then additionally, when it comes to the first part of what you covered, there are a few questions that I ask people, or just when I analyze content in general, and it not necessarily first question is not what it may seem. It's more around of the psychology level. It's like not necessarily what you're optimizing for. It's like how what would you like your life to be? Would you like it to have impact, legacy? Do you want to be fulfilled? Do you want to help others, etc.? That tends to be the first question, because all the other questions that you may ask, that if that question is not answered, will not increase the likelihood of you having more success with the client. So then it kind of goes to the content perspective of like, what are you optimizing for in the first place? Views or money? And of course, you can do both nowadays with the assistance of like affiliate links, selling courses, ebooks, info, etc. But that's still a difficult way to get all the attention but not convert. For instance, an example of this is Cluely, based off what I've heard, is they got millions, maybe like a billion or something views across all platforms for being a really controversial software, cheat on everything. And yet, from what I've heard, is their software was not really monetizing what they thought based off what they kind of was marketing the software to be. It
Yeah,
just goes back to like the product. So when it comes to standing out in the clipping space, what's something in the clipping space, like a specific style of content or specific type of content that's like working right now?
Right now, we see what I saw working was basically where they have some type of story in the beginning, and then going into transitioning into like a skull edit. That's the type of content we have worked with our clients, because that's their type of styles. But
Mm.
it depends on the creator itself and what they do. But yeah, that's something, if you have seen those, where there's like some type of funk, and then there's like a skull edit in the end or something.
Uh, yeah, for a few people that I've seen, skull edits work and they get more views, but it's not necessarily the right quality of views and the attention that you want to get. It just goes back to like
Yeah.
the goal we talked about earlier. Is like, you want to monetize or do you want to get attention? If you want to just get sheer attention, go more like the dopamine effect, the monkey effect. And of course, you can still apply it to the money side too by having like rehooks throughout the entire video, not just the hook itself. So I know you mentioned clients, and I want to transition away from RI Media to kind of what you're doing now. So when it comes to evaluating partnerships, clients, what are the like the first few signs tactically that tells you this is someone worth building with versus just maybe knowing on the side?
If they believe in you, in what you're doing, and if they're ready to take it to the next step and they're dedicated, so that's pretty important. And yeah, I've worked with a lot of partners at this point,
Hmm.
and a lot of them, maybe they did fail. I didn't make a lot of money from it, but more importantly, I learned a lot of lessons, and that was very good, since I'm pretty young right now. And by the
Hmm.
time I'm like 20, I'll have a lot of lessons, and I can, whenever I get some type of problem regarding something like that, then I would know how to solve it, how to go forward with that. So I mean, like, dedication, and then if they can work very hard and they believe in you.
Yeah, that's good. So for us and for how for the audience listening, our plan for podcasts is marketing is the ability to stand out. And one great way to stand out is just have one interactive or engaging part that's even more engaging than a typical podcast. So we want to quickly transition and we're going to share your screen when you may. We want to cover a piece of content based off of just content in general, what's working, what's not. Mugundhan's going to quickly analyze, and then I'll jump in if necessary for if I had any thoughts about the content. So whenever
Yep,
you're ready, please share your screen.
perfect. Yeah.
All right, we're live.
So this is a content that went really viral. I'll
Hmm.
first show an example video that I saw first, and then I made a similar video to it later on, which I'll explain later on. But
So
we'll
before we even play the clip, who is Eric Crutchfield?
Yeah, he's a real estate. He works in like building houses and stuff like that. We worked with him some time ago.
Hmm.
Uh, Honestly, with this clip alone, we generated millions of views.
That's great. And then because it just goes back to what we're covering earlier of like the questions you may ask, what was he optimizing for when you're working with him? Was he looking just for sheer views or some money side too? Because with real estate you can easily monetize that.
Yeah, he was selling an info product, but that was the problem. We didn't know in the beginning, so we realized in the end, he wanted to get some more sales for it. So we did optimize later on to get some more sales.
Mm.
So we used some methods like ManyChat, sending links
Yeah.
through DMs and stuff like that to optimize for more sales.
Cool, cool. All right, we can play the clip whenever you're ready.
Yep.
This is the not fun part. I need to collect about $1,503,993. Woo! Actually, for a car or a house? You sent the 200 wires, so I need 1 free. Yeah. Shit. Well, Tiffany, call it. You know what we do? Throw it on a black card. Another time, baby. Undeclinable, baby. Undeclinable. The McLaren Senna.
So what are your thoughts on that edit? It was definitely
Yeah,
more of the skull dopamine monkey edits, but it was
exactly.
always tends to be funny when I see the skull emoji or some other thing pop up.
Exactly. So this was a clip that I saw first in when we were working with him in the very beginning. As I was just scrolling through my phone, I saw it in my feed. So after I saw it, I realized this clip definitely has way more potential than it has. So after that, I immediately went to WAP and I announced this viral clip alert, Eric with insane potential. And after I did that, I went ahead and made my own clip
Mhm.
and posted on an account, on a brand new account. After that, I immediately it went viral. Like it got like 3 million views, I believe, and I
Mhm.
made money from it as well, even though I was managing the campaign. So after that, they people saw that has insane potential. They went and did it themselves. But why it got views was because he was talking about the black card, and at that time, I was seeing a lot of clips online with the Black American Express card, with flexing that and stuff like that. So with that, just imagined it with this clip as well, and then with the skull edit when he was saying undeclinable and stuff like that works perfectly. But the only
Yeah.
thing I would improve on this specific edit, which was from another clipper, is the captions itself. I would
Mm.
definitely make it a bit more cleaner. This was a bit messy.
Yeah, it was hard for me to read those for the most part, so I 100% agree with you that the captions could easily be changed.
Yeah. And then the skull edit, I'll just keep it the same, maybe a shorter. It doesn't have to be that long, just like 1 second. And then, yeah, just cleaner. Maybe it will remove the last part because retention matters a lot when it comes to these platforms.
Yeah.
So just keep it as short as possible. And yeah,
Mm. Yeah, I
what
think that's good. And for me to add on and to cover maybe a few points that you haven't fully covered yet is first, it started off with the numbers like 1.4 million.
Mhm.
Authority-based hooks work. Second, unexpected throughout, constant action. So, for instance, when he threw the black card, it's a trending topic plus visual action, hooks them even more outside of the 1.4 million number, I believe that they said. And then it's also the typical raw content itself. What is he doing? Buying a like a 20, see a $200,000 plus McLaren, and those types of videos do work when it comes to this type of content. So like the first driving factor for me is of course is the hook, and then it's the everything else for the video, and then just like the ending and how it resonates with the viewer. So like the hook, authority based with a number, then it's the constant action in between. Third is the unexpected, like tell me something that I don't know or show me something that I don't believe will happen. When it was like the skull edits, the him throwing the card on the table, trending topic with the black card itself, and then additionally the two car salespeople's reactions when it came to the black card never declines because it's the upper like the epitome of luxury. So
Yeah.
would there be anything else that you would like to mention on that edit, or do you believe we covered that sufficiently?
Yeah, I mean the hook is very important, as you said. With like he's paying a half $1.5 million for a car. People will look at it and be like, what is that? What is he
Mm.
doing? What is he buying? And stuff like that. So that's very important. And also, what I've been seeing work as well is something called a clip hook, where
Mm.
you take a moment of the incident in the beginning of the video. For example,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's one of my favorite things.
yeah, for example, let's say maybe like when Briz crashes his car, then you take the moment where he crashes the car and where you
Have
can
it at the
see
beginning.
that he crashed the car and have it in the beginning, to so they can see like he crashed the car, and they would want to watch the video. If you didn't have that, then you would just have a part in the beginning where maybe he's yapping about something random, and they would just scroll past. And also another thing is text hook. In my video that I edited with that clip, I remember having a text hook saying something like, I don't know exactly what I said, but I had a text hook that described the video a bit. So either a clip hook somehow or a text hook is very important for clipping.
Yeah. I believe so. Funny enough, they mentioned text hooks. Text hooks are something that I'm was familiar with, and of course, with content, you get better each and every time you analyzed all those reps. So I've even gotten better like at text hooks over the just past couple of weeks of like just how you structure them. So for the people who are listening who are more new to the game, you want your text hook, of course, to get the person's attention. But second, what I feel that most editors or clippers get wrong is they have the text hook give away the answer or like the Easter egg on the text hook itself, and that drastically lowers views compared to just tease, tease, tease throughout, and then you have the payoff, like what I think Callaway or Patty Galloway says when it comes to that. So when it comes to very small details that surely matter, you don't want to have the death by 1,000 cuts when it comes to creating content. What do you think is a small editing or packaging mistake that lowers performance and that a lot of maybe beginner, intermediate editors or clippers make?
Yeah, it's mostly like, where they think making better edits with like crazy captions and stuff like that. They want to try something different, which they have seen, and in the end, it doesn't look good. Like example with the clip that we saw, it had like some weird effects, like adding some effects on the video, maybe trying to add some transitions, some random transitions and stuff like that. I never use those,
Hmm.
so yeah, that's a mistake a lot of people think they need, and in the end, it looks pretty bad. But something I see right now is like, just having something simple, just like some simple captions and some text hook. That's all you need. But the most important thing is the clip itself. Without the clip being very good, then it won't get the views. And like the editing part is like just adding an accessory on top.
Hmm. Just
So
amplifies what's already there.
exactly.
Good, bad content with good editing just makes the bad content look worse. Good editing with good content just makes the video look great. So, for me, one subtle editing mistake that I find people use on long form, because that's more of a subject when it comes to monetizing the audience, you use long form compared to shorts to build that reputation, build the know, like, trust, and respect you, and build that sale and the intent that leads up to the sale. So, for instance, I did this analysis months ago on a person named Brandon Dawson. He's the business partner of Grant Cardone, and he had a YouTube page, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. And when it came to his long form edits in particular, he had a lot of B-roll footage throughout the video. Of course, goal of B-roll is to increase retention on those long form videos. But good B-roll helps, bad B-roll kills. So what do I mean by that? Good B-roll, if used 100%, that aligns to the subject of the video and makes the video better, it will increase retention by like 5 to 10% on a long form for YouTube. However, if the bad B-roll, let's say, for instance, one of his clips was him talking about being like a millionaire, etc., and then it had a man who's you just saw the back of him walking down the beach. It was like a generic stock image, like stock video.
Mm.
It did not perform as well, and that's why one of the small reasons why Brandon's content is not performing on the retention side, because YouTube is a retention game when it comes to long form, and of course YouTube and all the other platforms, retention is super important. So I know we covered a lot for today's conversation, and I want to transition more into the tactical part and then also the strategy part when it comes to building those systems. So for ClipHub AI, what's a recent system or process that you built out that helped your job and the rest of the company's job become easier?
Yeah, it's just, planning more with what we're building, and, deciding what we're going to build in the future as well. So we are thinking in the long term and not in the short term.
Mm,
And yeah, just, planning out before we do anything, which is pretty important. Right now, we don't code ourselves. No one codes nowadays. They all
Yeah,
use
vibe
AI.
code or cloud code, etc.
Exactly. So it's pretty easy. So it's just prompting. If you know what you're going to do, you just prompt and get it done.
Hmm.
So that's like a thing. But yeah, we're just building systems to make it easier for a lot of clippers and
Hmm.
stuff, and the clients which we're transitioning into.
Yeah. More technical question to follow up on that point. Are you the one who's doing most of the adding the content to the AI software with like context windows, or is that someone else on your team who's doing it, or like a
It's
third party?
No, we do it everything. We have built everything in house. We don't use much APIs and stuff, but we like planning to basically give it links, and it will automatically scan the profile and take the content from that. But so that's how we're planning to do.
Yeah, that's great because I know for like a lot of the softwares out there just like look through the transcript and then they just extract the video. And for instance, just to like speak on Opus a little bit more, I've used it. It's decent, but like when it says like a 99 out of 100, which of course you're optimizing to go viral on that video, and I go through the video and I said like this is a minute video. Video itself could just be like 15, 18 seconds max, and yet it gave it to me all spread out, or it just gives me a video that's just complete, might get like a couple hundred views and that's it. So when it comes to systems and stuff, can you just walk me through like what does a week in your life look like?
Yeah, for me, I'm not building much in the team, building a lot of the products. I look for, what to build and the future vision of ClipHub. And also, more time in the when we are getting done with the product, it will be more as in client acquisition, client communication to see what we need, to see what they need us to build on top of, which will make their job easier and to show more results.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's more like decision making, so that's also a big part of my role. So I make the final decision on what we're actually doing and stuff like that. And it's more also like learning as well during the day, and yeah, seeing what the others are doing so we can implement on our systems. And also if there is anything to make it faster, to get it out faster, then I will jump on to help to get it done.
Mm. What's something that you recently learned about content that you're using in business in general that you plan to implement throughout either your software or just in general when it comes to content marketing?
Yeah, right now it's just a lot of people now are getting tired of those dopamine edits and stuff like that, and a lot of, especially in the long form. So I
Hmm.
see a lot of the raw content, raw vlogs, raw breakdowns work more and better. So that's something we can implement when we are, you know, doing the content marketing to acquire clients and stuff. So I see that work really well. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I can think of right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's good. And when you mention better, it just goes back to the overarching question is like what are you optimizing for in the first place? Like you said, those like info product, micro board breakdowns of Brez scales $1 million a month funnel, those work, but it just goes back to more of the basics of business in general. It is like it goes back to the definitions like marketing is the ability to stand out without breaking trust. If everyone's doing micro board, you're probably not going to stand out unless you have some unique take, personality, etc. One of
Yeah.
the main reasons why people watch you is who you are, what you're saying in the video, what's the value to the viewer, what's your background, your story, but it's also your physical background too. So for instance, in podcasts, there's a up and coming podcaster named Elliot Buick, and he just had a podcast with, I believe, someone, and the podcast was outside in an environment very similar to the Grand Canyon. So it was an amazing view, an amazing sunset, and you could just see the sunset just set the entire time. It was a phenomenal podcast, and I've been studying how he asked the questions to get those like great question responses as well. So background is another key component when it comes to creating that raw content itself. People tend to overthink content, and I tend to overthink things in general, but also it's more like the positive side as well. So you can definitely overanalyze content. So it just goes back to having that system in place. So you just go checklist, box by box by box, what's working, what's not, what can we do to improve, and what are some new ideas that we can come up with. So last question for you, man, is there anything that you would like to cover that has not been mentioned yet?
No, I've pretty much mentioned a lot, but yeah, I mean, it was a great podcast, and yeah, I hope to have some more and give some more value in the future. I'll probably run up some more content very soon,
Mhm.
explaining how they can make some more money with clipping in general, or
Personal branding coming.
yeah, very soon. So yeah, this is my first podcast as well, so I'll have definitely way more coming up. So this will always be up there as my first podcast. So I'm honored.
I'm glad I brought you 0 to 1 on podcasts. So
Yes.
that's sweet. All right, so that's it today for everyone who's watching.